We begin today's program with Nicolle Wallace, the former communications director for President George W. Bush.
A near idyllic professional experience for George W. Bush.
George Bush started new wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the implementation of a torture regime.
I wanna get too close, gonna get it right now.
Bush, I love Bush. A near idyllic professional experience.
I wanna push all the limits with you right now.
Interrogation techniques that every civilized country regards as torture were approved of at the highest levels of the Bush administration inside the White House.
I don't care what
Nicolle, what about the black prisons?
I don't care what
Nicolle, what about supporting right-wing groups that killed hundreds of...
I don't care what
Nicolle, people in Guatemala were not a threat to the United States. We killed 200,000 of them.
I don't care what
Nicolle,
And the notion that this somehow makes America less great is asinine.
I love Bush.
I don't care what
Nicolle,
This president started 2 wars.
I don't care what
Nicolle,
Iraq is based on false pretenses.
I don't care what
Nicolle,
It inflicted severe damage on the credibility of the United States around the world.
I don't care what
Iraq is viewed by overwhelming majorities of Americans as being a grave mistake.
I don't care what
The president himself ordered illegal surveillance on the American people.
I don't care what
I love Bush. And look, I was a communicator, I was a spinner, so I have culpability there. But
I don't care what
Nicolle,
Nicolle Wallace gets her own afternoon show on MSNBC.
you don't have a president, as you said, talking about exterminating Latinos.
Donald Trump did not talk about exterminating Latinos.
100% pants on fire.
Regular viewers know that we have been following the mysterious illness that has affected U.S. officials all around the globe called the Havana Syndrome. I've been following this with sort of a morbid curiosity for months. Explain the syndrome, who it targets.
Well, this really begins during the transition between the Obama administration and the Trump administration. And you had a veteran CIA officer who felt as if there was like a beam of energy that was following him. And so he reported it.
Hey, Mike!
You know, frankly, everyone was mystified. They didn't really know what to make of it. About a month later, a second incident involves that same CIA officer.
And something about the rays or the waves or the energy that was beaming towards them, it sickened them.
And what's kind of remarkable about the story is
the claims are scientifically implausible.
The mysterious Havana Syndrome. Havana Syndrome, that mysterious set of ailments known as the Havana Syndrome.
People believed to have been affected have reported headaches, dizziness, and in some cases a loud noise.
Just play it for you so you can hear.
It was a lot worse earlier. It was persistent, kind of at the same level all the time.
Scientists say the sounds were crickets.
The mystery of the Havana Syndrome. It's an unexplained mystery. The mystery deepens around the Havana Syndrome, mysterious Havana Syndrome. New fears about the Havana Syndrome and the growing mystery of Havana Syndrome. What is behind the rise of those sudden attacks? There are enemies might be weaponizing technology and attacks against U.S. officials.
To stop the destruction of this magnificent planet. This conference is one of the most important meetings in history.
Mysterious Havana Syndrome, Havana Syndrome, Havana Syndrome. The mystery deepens over the so-called Havana Syndrome, the mysterious affliction called the Havana Syndrome.
Nicolle, I'm really concerned. It's only a matter of time before maybe a senior leader gets hit with it.
Questions about whether these were the actions of a foreign adversary.
Intelligence agencies strongly suspect Russia is to blame.
The Havana Syndrome.
Russia is the leading suspect.
Havana Syndrome. Those sudden attacks, targeted attacks.
These aren't attacks on people that work at museums. They're attacks on U.S. government officials.
Mysterious Havana Syndrome. Beaming something to hurt people's brains. Are they acts of war?
Indeed, it could be considered an act of war.
Mysterious Havana Syndrome. Clearly acts of aggression, acts of war. If they're acts of war, why are we still debating whether they're real?
This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Deadline White House continues after a quick break. Do not go anywhere. On Tuesday, the House passed the Havana Act, designed to provide financial support to those believed to be suffering from symptoms of Havana Syndrome.
All right, so that'll be this many dollars.
Why are we doing more? War?
Why, indeed. The attacks have stepped up. Whoever is doing this is sending a message to the United States. We can attack you at will. We can attack you wherever we want and whenever we want, and you can't catch us.
Frank Figluzzi, we share your passion. We'll stay on this with you. Thank you, my friend. When we return, a mysterious illness known as the Havana Syndrome. A 4-year mystery, an unexplained phenomenon. Havana Syndrome. Deadline White House continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The White House engulfed in a new Russia scandal. Russia offered bounties for the killing of American soldiers. Russians offered a bounty for the killing of U.S. soldiers. Russian bounties on the heads of American soldiers.
The commander of all U.S. troops in Afghanistan says intel has not established Russia-paid bounties. Top Pentagon officials say that the Russian bounty program is not corroborated. The Department of Defense has no corroborating evidence to validate the allegations.
This mountain of evidence that we now have of Donald Trump refusing to confront Vladimir Putin about something as sacred as the lives of U.S. soldiers. Bounties placed on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties on U.S. soldiers' heads. Russian bounties put on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties placed on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties being placed on the heads of American soldiers. Bounties being placed on the heads of American soldiers. Bounty program. Russian operatives. Russia. Bounties paying for the killing of U.S. soldiers. Russians putting bounties on the heads of our soldiers. I want to come back one more time to the Russian bounty crisis. Russians paying bounties for killing Americans. To kill U.S. troops. Trump calling this a hoax. The Russia bounty story. The Russia bounty story. Russian lethal covert actions to kill Americans. Russia has paid bounties for murdering American soldiers. For the killing of U.S. and allied forces. Russian plot to kill American troops. Russians paying bounties for the killing of American soldiers. Why do Russians want American soldiers dead?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we haven't got time to go into it.
Wait a second!
Russian bounties placed on the heads of American soldiers. Russians paying the Taliban bounties for dead American soldiers. Russian bounties on the heads of U.S. soldiers. And the bounties on U.S. soldiers. Russian bounty scandal. Russian paid bounty scandal of increasingly daunting proportions. Russia scandal. Russia offered bounties to kill U.S. troops.
A bounty on the heads of American service members. You know, if you believe what you've been reading.
Bounties on the heads of U.S. soldiers. Bounty story. Explosive reporting about Russia paying bounties to kill American troops. U.S. soldiers killed by people paid bounties. Russians were paying to kill American troops. A Russian program bounties for murdering American soldiers. Russian bounties on the heads of American soldiers. It's a conversation we've had many, many times, but never with such stark evidence in front of us of
it's a jet stream of bullshit coming out of your mouth, my friend.
Intelligence saying that the Russians put bounties on American soldiers' heads. The most vetted intelligence about intelligence, and intelligence was described to me by a former intelligence official. The intelligence community, this intelligence reporting, intelligence committee, national intelligence, you have the intelligence.
Well, Nicolle, it's great to be with you. It's classified, so I really can't share with you what I learned, but let me just say.
Russia, the reported perpetrator of the bounty program. Intelligence about Russia paying bounties for the killing of U.S. soldiers. And what about reported intelligence intel? American officials, intelligence agency intelligence heads.
Well, what U.S. intelligence learned is that there was a Russian military intelligence.
According to 3 officials familiar with the intelligence. The intelligence saying that according to officials, intelligence officers, the intelligence community intel, U.S. intelligence about bounties being placed on the heads of American soldiers. The CIA has placed intelligence in front of Donald Trump. Intelligence about bounties being placed on the heads of American soldiers. And he didn't read it. He didn't call Putin to yell at him. It's been a week since we first learned about the Russia bounty story. And in all that time, does it strike anyone as odd that Donald Trump hasn't attacked the person or the country at the center of that intel story? Vladimir Putin is getting away with all of it, and Donald Trump is letting him.
Is he a chicken?
A president usually doesn't hesitate to make that clear to the Russian leader. If you are putting bounties on the heads of American soldiers, I'm coming for you.
What's the matter, you chicken?
Donald Trump refusing to confront Vladimir Putin about bounties that Russia paid to the Taliban.
What's the matter, chicken?
The administration doing nothing.
You chicken?
Bounties. His decision was to do nothing.
What's the matter, you chicken?
We have a president who's done nothing. We have a president still mum on Vladimir Putin putting bounties on the heads of American soldiers. An unthinkable reaction from an American president president.
What's the matter, you chicken?
Trump doing nothing still. Doing nothing to the Russians about bounties put on the heads of American soldiers. Russians paying bounties for U.S. soldiers and Donald Trump doing nothing. The president doing nothing.
What's the matter, you chicken dick?
The president has said nothing. The president's inaction on Russian bounties. The Biden campaign was quick to respond to what it perceives to be Donald Trump's subservience to Vladimir Putin. They said this president is even giving Russia impunity for offering bounties to terrorists for murdering American troops. What would Joe Biden do if he were given this intelligence?
1 year later.
The Biden White House says intel on Russian bounties is shaky. The Biden White House has acknowledged there was little evidence. U.S. spies doubt reports of Russian bounties. Remember those Russian bounties? The Biden administration says the CIA intel is not conclusive. According to a newly disclosed assessment, Donald Trump might have been right to call it a hoax.
Why does Russia want to kill American soldiers? Because if they weaken Trump so much that he loses, that's not in their interest. And if they force him to engage them, that's not.
U.S. intel walks back claim Russians put bounties on American troops.
President Biden today ordered the U.S. intelligence community to redouble their investigative efforts as to whether the virus spread from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. Was it these characterizations, Michael, of, that's not likely? I mean, were there assumptions made at the beginning? You think?
Previously,
Donald Trump turning his intelligence community to now investigate a conspiracy theory about COVID coming from a lab in Wuhan. The conspiracy theory suggesting the coronavirus was man-made in China. Trump himself now says he's seen evidence that the virus came from a lab in China. The problem, President is once again not synced up with his intel community. The White House not really interested in anything other than confirming a conspiracy theory on the idea that coronavirus was fabricated in a lab as some sort of nefarious Marvel comic-like plot. Trump administration officials have pushed American spy agencies to hunt for evidence to support an unsubstantiated theory. I mean, you could stop right there and say, what gives? But it's about a government laboratory in Wuhan that was the origin of COVID. Now, I've seen this kind of, stuff peddled in the right-wing media.
1 year later.
President Biden asked U.S. intelligence to dig deeper into the origins of the coronavirus and find out whether it escaped from a lab in China. Right-wing media, and they are still taking a victory lap and feeling avenged around the dossier being further vetted. I mean, it was, most people covered it as sort of unvetted, but something that was out there. Other people went farther than that. It may be dirty, but it ain't fake. It ain't fake. It ain't fake. The Trump-Russia dossier, the Steele dossier, it was the salacious document that started it all. The Russian dossier. The dossier on Donald Trump. His personal obsession with the dossier is clouding his judgment. The dossier, Russian hooker tape about him allegedly being peed on by Russian hookers, the Tinkle tape. The dossier gets discounted because of the salacious things, but frankly, what we've learned since its publication on BuzzFeed is that some of the salacious things may be the most believable. The dossier has not been proven false. A third of it's been proven true.
In other words, 2/3 of the dossier, the vast majority of the dossier, is completely unsubstantiated rumor.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Russian hookers lewd activities. It ain't fake.
Yeah!
The P tape, sex act, the Tinkle tape. We're talking about the sex with Russian hookers. The dossier. The dossier continues to be an obsession for Donald Trump. While the president likes to claim that it's phony, it's a fact that none of it, not one word, has been disproven. The truth about the dossier is that not one thing has been disproven. The dossier has not, to this point, been disproved or discredited. I also think it's interesting that the president spends so much time, the president spent so much energy, so many words spent smearing this document. And that's usually a tell that there's something very right and very troubling for him. To date, none of it has been disproven. The dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, not a single piece of it has been publicly proven to have been false. And no one has disproven any single piece of reporting. You bring up the dossier and instantly the 33% Trump base just goes ding, 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 salacious and discredited. But it's all proving out. The central thesis of the dossier, it's all proving out. It seems increasingly likely. It's all proving out.
The salacious
salacious and unverified details in the Steele dossier are eminently plausible.
Yes.
More so every day. It's all proving out.
There's been a lot of things pointed out in that dossier that may or may not be true. But setting that aside, I think
Stormy
the
Daniels suggests that the most salacious probably are true. I mean, I'm serious. It's all proving out.
5 years later.
Obviously, the Steele dossier is a fairly discredited document at this point, by far, actually, I would say.
In other words, Nicolle Wallace pushed the highly discredited disinformation that is the Steele dossier for 5 years straight.
So the dossier...
An unverified anti-Trump dossier assembled by Christopher Steele.
A source who's not just credible to American intelligence, not just credible to American law, but he's credible all over the world.
Many claims he made were not checking out.
A source who's not just credible to American intelligence.
According to American intelligence, Christopher Steele had a lack of self-awareness.
Not just credible to American intelligence.
According to American intelligence, Christopher Steele was underpinned by poor judgment.
Not just credible to American intelligence.
American intelligence viewed Steele's material as an internet rumor.
He's credible all over the world because he's a former British spy.
Key Steele dossier source charged with lying to the FBI.
The primary source of the notorious Steele dossier.
5 counts of lying to the FBI for that infamous Steele dossier.
The Steele dossier is a fairly discredited document at this point, by far, actually, I would say.
The president tweeting, "This is the act that may have been used with the help of the discredited and phony dossier to so badly surveil and abuse the Trump campaign by the previous administration and others." A quick fact check. No.
Fact check. False.
Our review identified significant concerns with the FBI's failure to adhere to its own standards of accuracy and completeness when filing applications for Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act authority, known as FISA, to surveil Carter Page, a U.S. person who was connected to the Trump for President campaign.
The fake dossier and all the lying that went on in the FBI and DOJ. I can't read the rest of this. I mean, this is the lunatic, irrational response to what is a very rational, evidence-based, fact-based investigation.
FBI pleads guilty to doctoring email in Trump-Russia investigation.
The other big story in Washington today, an Inspector General report conducted by Inspector General Mr. Horowitz. What the report shows is something that won't be surprising to people that have spent a lot of time in the federal government.
The report left former officials aghast.
But the headline will be, whether you are a Trump supporter or a Trump skeptic, that the FBI is exonerated today.
It doesn't vindicate anyone at the FBI who touched this, including the leadership.
The FBI is exonerated today.
The activities we found here don't vindicate anybody.
They are all absolved of any wrongdoing.
Disinformation. This report is up and down, ridiculing the FBI for being horrible and lying. And what does she say? Completely exonerates the FBI. What kind of a liar? This is MSNBC. This is who they are. This is who they are.
A regular disseminator of disinformation, full of lies, fake news.
Coming from a foundation of BS.
This sort of drunken stupor of disinformation. Disinformation machine. A planet where facts don't matter, mostly fueled by disinformation. Without principle. Serving and producing propaganda. And smears that endanger, at this point, all of us. Trump using the military to clear peaceful protesters gathered outside the White House so he could stage a photo op.
Misinformation. The protest was not broken up due to Trump photo op. Police did not disperse protesters so that Trump could hold a photo op. Trump Bible photo op not the reason cops cleared protest. Police did not clear protesters to make way for Trump photo op. Police did not clear protesters from Lafayette Park for Trump photo op.
We did not find evidence that the federal agents used CS gas.
Feds did not clear protesters for Trump visit.
The DC police used the CS gas.
Demonstrators were pushed out to allow contractors to build a fence, a response to damage done during the 2 previous nights of rioting.
Rewind, please.
The Trump administration cleared peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters in Lafayette Square so the president could take a walk and a photo in front of a church holding a Bible. Protesters were gassed to clear the way for Trump's photo op, gassing protesters on Lafayette Square for the sole purpose of being able to hoist a Bible above Trump's head as a photo prop. Protesters were aggressively cleared to make room for Donald Trump's photo op.
Misinformation, pants on fire.
But wait, there's more.
Biden today addressing the nation.
A president using tear gas in order to stage a photo op.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Military forces to clear protesters to set up a photo op.
Phil Rucker, Washington Post senior Washington correspondent.
He had the protesters cleared out by force so that he could go do the photo op.
Former aide to the George W. Bush State Department, Elise Jordan.
Gassing his own people to clear the way so that he could have a photo op.
Politics editor for the Daily Beast, Sam Stein.
He cleared Lafayette Square to do that photo shoot.
Yumi Shalcindor, White House correspondent for PBS News.
A president tear gassed myself and others to try to have a photo op.
Pastor Michael Durant.
To move people in order to get a photo op.
Former Democratic Senator, our friend Claire McCaskill.
America all focused and they saw what happened there. He wanted a photo op. They used chemicals to damage people.
The president deployed the Secret Service and the Park Police to clear out a square for a photo op.
To walk the president over for a photo op.
And Nicolle, the stunt that he pulled with a photo op.
The clearing of peaceful protesters to make way for Donald Trump's photo op, using the military on his own people to clear peaceful protesters.
Rated red hot misinformation.
A seminal moment, not just in the history of this presidency, but in the history of this country.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Hunter Biden's laptop reveals secret emails.
We shouldn't look at it as anything other than a Russian disinformation operation. Any information should be considered contaminated by Russia. So it's a highly implausible story. Russian disinformation in the hands of the U.S. president. Russian disinformation to batter Joe Biden. Russian disinformation about Joe Biden. An active and live Russian disinformation campaign designed to harm Joe Biden. An active Russian disinformation op. Russian disinformation. A Russian intelligence op. An active Russian intelligence operation. Suggesting somehow that Joe Biden is a corrupt politician.
I went to the big guys for the money.
Russia disinformation campaign. Ongoing and live Russian aggression. Laundered, contaminated information. Russia is attacking the United States with disinformation. Clearly peddling foreign disinformation. Foreign Russian disinformation about the Bidens. Russian misinformation. Russian disinformation campaign. The Russians. A Russian intelligence operation in this country. Disinformation, information from Russia. Russian disinformation for Russia and Russian disinformation. No one has yet verified the content of that laptop. Law enforcement is actively investigating whether the alleged Hunter Biden emails are linked to any foreign intel ops. We shouldn't look at it as anything other than a Russian disinformation operation.
The Hunter Biden laptop material is genuine.
Disinformation, telling lies, really delusional fantasies. Disinformation space, a steady supply of toxic stew of grievance and violent rhetoric. I told Jeb Bush after that debate that I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died from injuries he sustained while physically engaging with protesters.
Officer Sicknick died of natural causes after defending the Capitol on January 6th.
A United States Capitol Police officer died on Thursday night from injuries sustained while physically engaging with pro-Trump rioters.
Officer Sicknick died of natural causes.
The officer, Brian Sicknick, was killed in the line of duty.
Disinformation.
They beat a Capitol Police officer to death.
Disinformation.
The murder of a police officer.
Disinformation.
It's a powerful symbol honoring the fallen officer in the same building he died defending.
Disinformation.
Officer Sicknick died of natural causes the day after the Capitol riot.
These are the facts.
Pants on fire.
Let that sink in. Stunning new reporting in the Washington Post about the January 6th committee's investigation into a 7-hour, 37-minute gap in the call log, records of calls Donald Trump made that day. The committee is investigating a, quote, possible cover-up. The records and the holes in them show no calls to or from Donald Trump for hours on January 6th. And it is no coincidence it's right in the middle of the day. This gap obstructing the communications that the president had for nearly 8 hours.
The 7-hour, 37-minute gap.
7 hours and 37 minutes.
Makes Nixon's 18-and-a-half-minute gap look like a Boy Scout.
And it is no coincidence. The call logs actually show a very clear, very big gap, a 7-hour and 37-minute gap. This gap window, that missing window, this gap. Now, regarding this gap in the logs, the House panel is now investigating whether Trump communicated that day through back channels, phones of aides, or personal disposable phones known as burner phones. Possible cover-up, the possibility of Donald Trump, President of the United States, on the day of the insurrection, using burner phones. Burner phones. What's in the gap? Was this possible cover-up, some sort of deliberate effort to black out a big chunk of time? And it is no coincidence.
The fact the log doesn't show calls on January 6th is not unusual. The call logs are complete with no missing pages. The gap is likely explained by use of White House landlines and cell phones.
This matters for so many reasons. One, someone who lies about something small lies about something big.
Well, we're dealing with a pathological liar, so why would we start believing him on this?